Hey all, welcome back to the lab. In this video, we're going to be talking about 3 things that I do not like about my new Lenovo P1 Gen 7. So I bought a Lenovo P1 Gen 7 ThinkPad this year and have been enjoying it, but every computer has its quirks, and so here's a few things I don't like about my P1, so you can kind of know some of these quirks going in and decide if this is right for you or not. So the first quirk is that it is a fingerprint magnet. So the aluminum top feels very sturdy and high quality, and this is kind of the same material that a lot of the newer MacBooks are having, especially like the black ones, but ultimately is still a fingerprint magnet. Now over time it's going to pick up fingerprints from carrying it around or opening the lid, and eventually it's just going to start to look like a kindergarten finger painting project. And there's not much you can do about this, as aluminum is known to do this. The MacBooks have the exact same problem, but it is unfortunate and kind of ruins the whole like quality build materials feel because it just looks not good. The second thing I don't like about the P1 Gen 7 is its fans are kind of loud. And so I want to start off by saying that, the P1 Gen 7 is a very powerful machine and a very lightweight package. I'm able to easily play AAA games like Indiana Jones on high graphics and hit a good 50 plus FPS, which just isn't really possible in a lot of laptops out there, unless it's on the more powerful side, and certainly not possible on most Mac. Now, however, this power does come at a cost, and that cost seems to be heat management. The machine itself has never gotten uncomfortably warm for me, even under high graphics loads, which is very impressive, but that's probably due to the fans going overtime. I want to say that these fans are not super loud. It's not like a jet engine or like, one of those room fans. But it is loud enough for my wife to get concerned if I'm sitting next to her and ask if my computer is broken. The answer, of course, is no. These fans are doing a great job at managing the heat of so much power in such a small frame, but the fans are noticeably loud, and they do come on if the laptop is doing anything even remotely taxing. Like sometimes having 20 plus tabs open in Chrome will trigger this. And now personally, I think this is fine as it doesn't bother me much. But if you're going to be working in a place where you need to be quiet or don't want to disrupt the people around you, like in a coffee shop or a library or maybe, in a co-working space that's like very quiet, you might want to take this into account because it could be disruptive to people around you. Now, as a point of reference, my previous Lenovo T14S Gen 3 AMD never had noticeable fans, but I'll also say it was never able to run AAA games like Indiana Jones, and so it's not really comparable in terms of power. And typically, the more power you fit into a smaller frame, the worse it has with heat management, and so the more fans it needs to actually stay working. The last quirk of the P1 is that the trackpad is kind of quirky. And so the P1 Gen 7 has a newish trackpad than other Lenovos I'm used to. I think from reading the comments and forums, this seems like a trackpad Lenovo has been putting in their machines for the past few years, but I've just never had a machine that had this one installed. And I'll say that my previous T14S's trackpad was a pretty standard, if a bit basic, kind of, what you expect out of a ThinkPad. It had some buttons, but you could also do a few tap controls, just a really standard, does what it's supposed to trackpad. This new one that the P1 Gen 7 has seems to be a more advanced one. So it has no buttons, and so everything's touch controls, kind of more like, what you're used to on a Mac, I guess. And in theory, this is better, but in practice, I found it to be a bit cumbersome. And on a caveat that I don't know if I'm just getting old and I'm just used to old trackpads. It seems like, a problem an old person would have. But I feel like I'm pretty accustomed to trackpads, and so a lot of people are probably facing this as well. But let me know if this is just a me thing. So here's some examples. So let's say I'm scrolling slowly through a Twitter feed, and you scroll and then you leave your hand there while you read through the things, and then you're ready to scroll again, or maybe a Wikipedia page or something. So you're holding your hand there because where else is it going to go? You're going to scroll. If I do that, the scroll will often get really unstable. So I just hold my hands there, and then the scroll will start jiggling a little bit. And my guess is that this is because the trackpad is so sensitive that my fingers are heating up the area, and your hand is never perfectly still. And so the trackpad is picking up the micro movements, which makes the trackpad think I'm scrolling, which makes sense, but I've never had this happen on any other trackpad. It kind of feels like a pretty shoddy touchscreen in this regard, where if you're doing the touchscreen, but it's not super accurate, or maybe it's not tuned well enough, it's gonna do weird things even though you didn't mean to do that. That's kind of what it feels like. The other issue I've had with this is the trackpad is pretty large, and it comes almost to the edge of the computer chassis, the front edge. And so in practice, again, when I'm scrolling, your hand's kind of like this, your fingers are on the trackpad and your palm needs to rest somewhere. Well, what I've had happen is my palm will touch the edge of the computer, but it's picked up on the trackpad because it's so sensitive and close. And then this will trigger a basically double or triple tap, depending on like how many fingers I'm using to do the trackpad. And so it does something like crazy, like it might change all the desktops because that's what a triple swipe does, or I might do a weird zoom because that's like what a double swipe does, which is not what I wanted, but it happens more often than I would like. And it's pretty annoying because it disrupts the whole like browsing experience. And I will say that like after about a month with the laptop, I am getting a bit more used to this. I'm avoiding like, laying my palm on the trackpad or like keeping my fingers there for too long because I know it'll like do the weird scrolly thing. But this is like a very weird and annoying experience that I have not had with other trackpads that I've used. And so something to keep in mind. This might just be a setting and they just need to or I need to turn down the sensitivity or something like that. But it is something really annoying I've found. Next. So despite all these quirks, overall I am really happy with the P1 Gen 7. It's a bit larger than my T14S, but packs so much more power in there that I'm finally achieving something close to a fully portable workstation, something that can act as like a gaming rig, it can be a coding workstation, and portable entertainment all in one. This is what I've always hoped that laptops could become, but until now most have had issues with either being too expensive or too heavy or just not powerful enough. You've always kind of had to make a concession on one of these points, but this one feels very close to what laptops should be in the future. Now, I'm not quite ready to ditch my desktop yet, but if this trend continues and I can still play like the newest AAA games on this thing on my lap wherever I am, then I might be very, very close. Now, if you like this post, you might also like how I use the Lenovo ThinkVision M14 as a portable vertical monitor to code while traveling. This is kind of the extension of my workstation when I'm on the go. Might also be interested in what's in my backpack travel edition, all the other gadgets and cords and stuff that I take with me everywhere I go, so I can be productive and code and stuff wherever I am. And finally, the HAM stack, a simple scalable tech stack for building modern web apps fast and cheap. This is basically my general philosophy for how I'm building web apps today. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.